Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit. Today we are joined by Erin Morse, who is an entrepreneur, a speaker, a family law attorney, the founder of the law office of Erin Morse, and the host of the Legal Morse of Action podcast. Erin, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, shortly before we got on air, I was talking with Erin, who informed me that I have been saying this name wrong my entire life, according to a Northeasterner, so I apologize if I'm saying it wrong now. Erin, can you please share with our listeners the Erin and Erin debate?
Okay, so the story I was telling is I'm originally from the Northeast, more specifically Massachusetts. I'm from a really small, it's technically a village. It doesn't qualify to be a city. So I had to be bussed through another village into the city where I graduated with 147 people. So it's kind of on the Cape. It was on the water, if you know the area. So I have a really specific accent that I've tried to get rid of since living in Florida, because now I'm based out of Orlando, Florida. But when I first moved down here, I realized, or someone had mentioned to me that, you know, they had another Erin working, because I started working at a hospital then, and it was Aaron, the boy, Aaron. Now, growing up, I knew other Erins, and we never considered those names the same or really even similar. Because if you say Erin, like eggs, Erin is how it's pronounced to us up north, and Aaron is very different. Aaron and Erin, we just never confuse them. So when that comparison is made pretty regularly down here, and people will mistake me for a male before maybe they see my face with the Aaron name, that was just a unique experience that happened here with how my name gets confused. And maybe it landed me a few more clients because they thought I was a male. And then they were like, oh, well, now that I'm talking to you, you're kind of great. But, you know, they thought I was a male. But for me up there, it never got confused. But down here, it gets confused. And maybe I bear the benefit of that if somebody has any gender proclivities on an attorney.
The fact that those two names are pronounced differently broke my Missouri brain. So it was a fun conversation to have right before jumping on live. But Erin, I can't even say
I never even cared about it. And one of my friends figured it out, because it took, they kept making fun of me for how I pronounce my own name. They would correct me, right? This one blew my mind too. They'd be like, Erin, you mean? I'm like, pretty sure I know how to pronounce my name. Pretty sure I got it down, but they would correct me. Anyway, I just accepted it. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't care if you mispronounce my name.
Get it right. So can you tell me
the way it feels comfortable? I like that better.
I'm just gonna butcher it. I'm just gonna Missouri my way through this whole thing. Well, can you tell me a little bit about the law office of Morse?
Yeah. So we practice family law, divorce, custody, modifications. One of the primary places that we find, our little sub niche is representing business owners who own a business, and that's a part of their divorce separation. I practice in Orlando, Florida, so I'm right near Mickey Mouse, and he is my homeboy. We're a pretty busy firm with 3 total attorneys and exceptional staff. So I've been really, really blessed with them.
Wow.
Great crew.
Can you tell me a little bit about, what drew you kind of initially towards the family law space?
Probably, if I'm being brutally honest, my mom was divorced twice, and I truly believe she was not at fault for either. But so I had that personal experience on what it looks like to be the child of, a single mother, really, for a lot of my life. And I had never known an attorney before I became a lawyer. I'd never even met one. I just knew I wanted to do that. I want to tell you that it is not from Legally Blonde, although, that's a great movie. It's probably more from an Erin Brockovich type of stern kind of lady, single mother perspective that inspired me more, if I had to pin it on any media. But I started working as a receptionist before I became an attorney, and that was in a family law firm. So part of my career path was when I first started working while I was an undergrad, I took a little bit of a slower path because I had to work and pay my own way through that. Again, my mother was a single mother and an RN, and she had 2 kids. So, but she was a lieutenant in the Army. So like, work hard, make it happen. If you keep pushing, you'll get through. And so I did school, the 4 classes, that's full time, but not the full 6 caseload. And I worked. So I worked in a hospital for a while. Then once I finally worked in law firms, it was being a receptionist and then a paralegal. And then those were both in family law firms. And then while I was in law school, I got a job as a law clerk in a complex business litigation firm. So I really got to see both sides of both of the extremes of the legal world, right? With a solo attorney where, he does all of the calls with the consults and every hearing and every little thing and what that looks like for serving people. And then the complex business litigation where our client is really the insurance company and we represent a big construction national company and they litigate on that. First of all, they barely ever actually go to court, and I love going to court. So once I became an attorney, that complex business litigation, of course, hired me. I passed the bar on the first try, right? All of those things. But when I started law school, I had a 5-month-old. So that complicated things once I became an attorney because he was 3. And if you're the mother of a 3-year-old, you're really not going to work a 10-hour day, 6 days a week so that you can get ahead. So I was trying to angle around, like, how do I make sure I drive my career and make good money? Because I didn't drag my son. I was married and I'm still married. But I didn't drag my family through this to like work a 70-hour work week. And then I looked at my boss's lives and I didn't like that either. I was like, what am I working towards? So I broke free. I went out on my own. Initially, I had a partner and we did business law and family law. So I have this like niche of understanding business uniquely well. I did that complex business litigation and it was not that complex and it was very boring. So family law really took off. I seemed to kind of outspin and outpace my partner. So we separated ways because my needs were different than what her needs were. I have everything positive to say about her. She was really bright, really hardworking. She's a really great attorney. She does a lot of good things. It's just the needs of my firm were just exploding on the family law side. And I was like, I'm not slowing this down and I need staff and I need to like eat some profits so I can grow. And I really needed to start playing that game and getting really business minded. So that's really my path from like girl with a twinkle in her eye to have family law firm where I'm the owner and it's the law firm of this lady right here.
Yeah. Now, being a mother yourself, do you find that gives you sort of a unique insight when it comes to family law matters involving, child custody or matters involving children?
Yeah, it definitely does because I now have 3 children and that complexity or the requirement to make sure that you're keeping that legacy going is a very real focus, right? I watched my mom work towards that and she worked very hard and her and I are very close. And knowing that you have to maintain those, even custody, yes, on the custody issue, and Florida has a standard of equal custody. So that is designed to benefit and reduce the bloodbath of litigation against who's going to win custody, because it's not to be won unless it's like extreme abuse, right? So when you get to like pluck that out of the analysis, we get to really have a better real conversation about what is practical for these children and this family. The other conversation I just regularly have with my families, because, when people try to ask this question of like, how do you balance a family and a business? Because I have that unique experience of how I deal with it, it's something I can bring to a conversation with my clients and what they need. Yeah. So, what's it going to look like with you working when you're the only parent and it's now shared time? Let's build your parenting plan around what your business needs or your needs are, because, we represent a lot of physicians and they can have very demanding schedules. but you could build a schedule around what that looks like. So I will look at, their assets, their business assets, and their family law needs, and really meld them together, because it's absolutely necessary to do. And most attorneys don't, because they don't have to, right? You don't have to provide a service like that. You don't have to think about what is the other side of this going to look like from a property ownership perspective, from, what if your spouse works for you in your business? What is that going to look like? And should you keep that? And should we build into this agreement an unwinding of that business and that employment? Like, do we need a phase out of that? And could we take a practical step towards it? Also, valuing business and personal goodwill are like very unique concepts on knowing what that looks like versus what part of the business goes into the marital estate.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm intrigued by this. You mentioned this notion of kind of preserving this legacy and keeping that going and keeping it alive, but you're doing it in another way as well. I mean, you teach family law for paralegals at Seminole State College of Florida. And I'm curious, I mean, what is so important about that sort of giving back and mentoring of the next generation coming up?
Right. I got an associate's degree in legal studies, and while I was also working as a paralegal, and it seemed so much to me that, I learned a lot of great stuff and had a lot of great professors, but I didn't learn a lot of the, maybe nitty gritty of what I needed to know in an office. Like, what do I do when I answer the phone? And it seems silly. Well, it seems silly, and like you might not think of it. And first of all, I'm paid for that, but I'm an adjunct professor. I teach one course a semester. It's family law. So based on my hourly rate, I am donating my time. But I do love it. I think it's amazing. I think we have to give back to our community if we want to have a strong legal community. I really think it starts with our paralegal and our staff. That's why I mentioned them, because they are just so important. I think a lot of what isn't taught in school, because maybe it's not legal curriculum or stuff like that, it's probably not as necessary for them to have the laws memorized. First of all, because the laws change and you're not supposed to give legal advice anyway. Now, again, you should learn it so you have some good basics and a basis, and it is what's tested on. But you really need to know how to make sure that when someone calls the firm, first of all, that's a family law's lifeline, right? Family law attorney's lifeline. We can't go out and cold call people. So all of our clients have to come from that phone ringing. So if you're answering the phone, this is really, I tell this probably 3 times in the class. If you answer the phone and you're like, law office, I'm like, that's just, who wouldn't want to hang up on that, So I do try to teach those kind of things, right? On what information you need to gather from the client, and that you should think about qualifying them, and what customer service looks like, because we are serving customers, right? AI is real. It's here, whether you like it and want to use it or not. You cannot put your head in the sand to it. So they believe they can go on AI and get their answers. Now, I had a consult just 2 days ago where, she told me that can't you get an injunction or a restraining order that forces him to hand over his finances? And I'm like so much no. That's just wrong in every way. So I really had to back up and be like, an injunction, teach her, right? An injunction stops people from doing something. And so that necessarily means you can't force him to take an action. That's, so, and she was like, well, why would AI tell me that? And I'm like, because they are built to please you. It's a people pleasing platform, which is okay. And if you know that what they wanted, what they were trying to get to, or they amalgamated in giving you the information, is that they won't allow a domestic violence abuser to control their spouse or significant other financially. So that gives the court some leeway to order some temporary alimony or temporary child support. Right. So yes, those two things could go together, but you aren't on the phone with me telling me about domestic violence. Right. So those two things just can't match, right? So AI
Yeah.
was there and it gave information, and it wasn't 100% wrong, but it cherry picked the information
Right.
it wanted to give you. So that's the difference. We need to provide this customer service. We need to help them have clarity, and we cannot fight against it. Our clients are going to use AI. It is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So you just have to be knowledgeable yourself about it so you can teach them how to use it well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I'm curious, you mentioned this notion of, why would AI tell me that, are there any other sort of common myths or misbeliefs that people hold about family law and divorce and child custody that they come in believing something and you're like, no, that's a myth. Everybody thinks that. Is there anything else in that
Yeah,
space?
so much. But if there's equal custody, because that is what our statutory standard is now as of
Mm.
2023, if it's equal custody, there should be no child support. Plain old not true. It's never been true. I don't think our courts will ever rule on that, because you shouldn't go from one really beautiful house with a lot of food and lush gardens and a pool, and then the other house has 2 cans of beans and they're struggling. And really they would need support from the state, right? So the state, if you want to think about it, like, why would the state do that? Why would they care? The state
Yeah.
cares because if people financially don't have the ability to support children, right? And it's equal protection for all. So it's justice for all people. So all people have the same rules. They don't want one party to be very financially stable, achieve their equal time sharing, and have a lot of money, and then the other parent needs to call upon the state to help with food stamps and cash assistance. There's nothing wrong with needing those assistance, and you actually have an entitlement to them when you qualify, right? So there's nothing wrong with them, but the state shouldn't be paying when the other parent has the ability to provide the support that these children need.
Yeah.
That's really the sum of the game as to why our statute probably won't ever change that. So it's not that haven't caught up. It's that you'll support your children, whether it's in your house or the other household, because it's for your children and it's their right. So there's that. Then the other one is, can they take the business away from me? So a really good example, the easiest one would be a doctor who has their practice, or a lawyer. Like, your spouse who's not a doctor or a lawyer is not going to take that from you. That's just not possible because they're not licensed for it. The court tries to, in equitable distribution, give the assets based on how they're titled. It will go in your column. Now, we'll divvy up it financially at the end, but they're not just going to pluck your business from you when they've never worked in your business. The court is highly unlikely to do that. Now, if you both had the business, you're going to have a different question, and you're both equal partners in it. We're going to have some different questions, and we're going to get more creative on it. But thinking that they're just going to take your business when you worked in it and they never worked a day in it, or they only did the bookkeeping or something like that, that's also not going to happen. The other big confusion that falls around business is like, the whole thing and every dime that was ever earned in the business is not like a recoverable asset. It's what exists at the time of divorce. So you won't go back through your marriage and go, well, I paid for this and I paid for that. We're not doing an accounting of every penny you've paid in your marriage. It's the assets that exist at the time of filing. Like, you're not, not going to go, well, I paid for everything, all back there, right? So this can happen a lot of times with a non-business owner spouse, where what they'll say is, well, I helped pay for, the front door glass when he was just starting out his business. Don't I get that back? Like, no.
Right.
No.
It's at that time. Now, I'm curious, you've mentioned that you're passionate about sort of modernizing the conversation around divorce. I'm curious, to modernize that, what are some of the things that are outdated in the conversations around divorce? What are some of the outdated beliefs? What are some of the, you mentioned, briefly there, but what are some of the ways in which you're sort of modernizing and updating that conversation?
So the first idea about the conversation is equal time, and the fact that one parent shouldn't be entitled to custody automatically, even with very young children. Florida law doesn't support that, and psychologically that's not generally supported. So in order to overcome that, you'd need to really move the bar pretty far with some expert influence on it. I think that modernizes it Also, what we as women should do to modernize it, or business owners in general, is realizing that when one parent takes on all of the custody or all of the, what I call the business time of the children, right? So only like having to be the parent who does all the school runs and all of that, and only the school time, that is not very good. That's not the best. It's not perfect for your relationship with the child, right? You as the business parent also deserve to go on a vacation with the children. Also, which is why this concept of equal time sharing can be very pro-women, is very pro-woman, because it does open up your opportunity to seek out and advance your career with no guilt or need for babysitting. I think that's a big modernized idea that we have to be very comfortable with, that this isn't against you and you will always miss your children. And a great deal of trust comes from the time sharing and shared parental responsibility happens. And a lot of your family is going to change in dynamic, but that's okay. Because opening up the time and opportunity to advance your career is the powerhouse that does need to be created. I think that that's the big deal about it. I also think that the modern conversation that I deal with a lot is that women often have the obligation of paying alimony. So it is gender inspecific. Child support is gender inspecific. Time sharing is gender inspecific. Alimony is gender inspecific. So there are a lot of concepts and protections that are to be thought about when we're figuring this out. And equal time sharing is not anti-woman. Yeah.
When you think back on all the people that you've been able to help through the law office of Erin Morse, is there an individual or a client that you really saw a positive outcome for or transformation in as a result of your help and guidance? Is there one that stands out? And if so, could you share that story with me and our listeners?
Yeah, I had a client who came to me and their marriage was messy at first, and they had to come to me. I found myself probably there are some themes that happen with my firm, right? That someone will come to me, they'll consult with me, and then they'll go, I went with someone a little cheaper, which is fine. That's your right. But then they come back to me and they go, I messed up. I hired that attorney and it's really bad. And I messed up. Can you help me clean it up? So I have a couple of those, and I really had to swoop in as cleanup crew, which is more expensive just because I have to double the effort and clean up and change trajectory of their case and their business. And one of this particular life cycle that went really well was I came into the case and they were nowhere despite having spent a lot of money, more money than I quoted them at first. And the attorney on the other side was, I don't know how to say it other than acting up, right? So I come in, I file a few things, I get in front of the judge, and the judge, all of a sudden, they said that the judge's attitude and behavior changed so much. And I said, yes, it's because of what I filed, how I filed it, and how I presented it. So it's not just an AI head getting the information over, right? It's not anybody who can do it. And what was happening was, their spouse wanted to take their house, say they shouldn't have time sharing. They were saying that the business was worth at least 8 to 9 times more than what it was worth, because they were failing to consider the concept of interpersonal goodwill, which is a non-marital asset, because it's who you are as an identity, as a person, right? So the law office of Erin Morse, the part of the law office that is Erin Morse, is inextricable from the law office. Because of that, it means that my person can't have outside value, right? And you can't have a piece of it because it's me as a person. So because there was a lot of that, and once I started presenting on that and arguing on it, the ultimate result, because we ended up having to take this to a trial, was a reduction in the obligation for alimony by $500,000.
Oh, wow.
And an equitable distribution. I did the math because, I was like, what? Because I got a little bit of a push that it was expensive, and it was not that bad. It was on par with what the other attorney charged, right? But they were upset because it was expensive because they had to double down. So I went through it with them and I said, listen, you got this benefit. And then the equitable distribution went down by $700,000 because they thought the business was that valuable. And I'm like, that's not even a marital part of the asset. So, it really had like $1 million benefit or more. So once I broke that down, I was like, okay, now you understand why, my skill in this contribution had such a high value, because your other attorney had never said that phrase to you.
Yeah.
The personal goodwill. I said, and it's a known concept for your business specifically. So that was really probably my favorite transformation, right?
Yeah.
It was looking ugly, and it was looking like so much more money was going to come out, and equal time with their children and putting them in a position where they got to have their business that could, because they, while you're going through this, your ability, especially when you're the business, your ability to like focus and work and generate the money is naturally reduced.
Yeah.
So, they want to blame you intentionally not earning as much money, but the stress of this going on is like a real reality, and not having perhaps the support of your spouse, or, you're fighting for your children. So you have to do a little bit more with your children, right? You got to be extra focused during this time to help shield them. I don't know. There's a lot going on, and it's a lot more than just like, separate it out.
Yeah. Well, Erin, this has been an absolutely awesome conversation. I mean, this has been a really insightful, really in-depth conversation. If anybody out there listening could use your help and guidance, could use the help of the law office of Erin Morse, or would like to tune in to the Legal Morse of Action podcast, where can people find you?
So you can find me everywhere on social media. So YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. My podcast is everywhere you can find a podcast. Legal Morse of Action. It is on Spotify, Apple, everywhere. iHeart, all of the streaming services. And if you are in Florida, right? I take cases down as far as Miami and up as far as Jacksonville. And if you need Erin Morse for your divorce, you can give us a call at 407-900-7451, or my website is erin@morse-firm.com, morse-firm.com.
Well, Erin, thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It was great. I'm glad to be here.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. This episode has been brought to you by LeDuc Entertainment for podcasting, social media, personal branding, and video. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much again, Erin.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.